part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi and Roda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And a shout out to our outstanding, fabulous producer, Ty Quartz, making sure all of you listening out there in the podcastosphere are getting this clearly. And Michael Reghi, clearly a difference between Game 1 and Game 2 of the Cavaliers-Knicks playoff series, as the Knicks came out and played bully ball in Game 1 and the Cavaliers were not ready for it. But in Game 2, I love how they responded, Reg, to even the series at 1-1. So let's go back and break down these first two games of this 7-game series.
Yeah, absolutely, Kenny. You're right. I mean, it was Cavaliers were out tough, out physical. The presence around the rim was all New York Knicks. In that first game, the Cavaliers got out rebounded 51-38, and much of that was on the offensive glass with Julius Randle just doing what he does, lowering his shoulder and getting around the rim and keeping shots alive for the Knicks. And yeah, the Cavaliers used the day plus to make sure that didn't happen again in Game 2. And so it was real good to see the way the Cavaliers did figure out. But, Ken, I don't think it was that tough to figure out. This is what the Knicks are going to do to you. And if you let it happen again in the second game, then shame on you. And thankfully, the Cavaliers did not allow that to happen. As I thought their presence in the paint and around the rim was much stronger and much more formidable than what they didn't get done in Game 1.
Reg, Game 1 disappointed me from this standpoint, okay? Yes, you can talk a lot about inexperience, and that was a factor for Darius Garland as well as Evan Mobley, surprisingly. He had a horrible game shooting the basketball, fading away from the rim, shying away from contact, 4 of 13 in that Game 1. And Garland didn't take a shot, surprisingly, in the fourth quarter. You and I always wondering, hey, why is he taking so many shots? Well, he went total 180 and didn't shoot at all in the fourth quarter of that game. So, yes, inexperience, I think, affected both of those players in the Game 1 loss. But what bothered me the most was they didn't get the 50-50 balls. They gave up 17 offensive rebounds. The heart, the desire, the grit, the determination, the intensity. You don't have to have experience for that, right? It's all about the want to. You've got to want to do it. You've got to want to stick your nose in there. And in Game 1, nobody really wanted to do that, with the exception maybe of Donovan Mitchell in that game. And so that's what disappointed me the most. And then on the flip side, after they lose 101-97 in Game 1, they come back and they blow out the Knicks in Game 2. And it was interesting. A caller on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC referenced it this way. He said, it's the big bad bullies of New York against the ballet dancers of the Cavaliers. Toughness and physicality against finesse and fundamentals. And I thought, you know what? That's a very good way to describe the Cavaliers. I remember way back when we were covering the Cavs during the Jordan era, and I think it was Jay Mariotti referenced the Cavaliers a big, it's one of them things. We tried to play hard and whatnot and all. He called them marshmallows. Remember that? He referenced them as marshmallows or as soft. And I thought, okay, we've compared this team to those teams, right? And very similar in their style of play. And so I didn't know if they had it in them in Game 2 to respond, punch back, continue to punch, keep their foot on the gas, and, play some bully ball of their own. And I loved what I saw. I saw a little bit more out of Jared Allen from that capacity. I saw, Donovan Mitchell knocking somebody down on a drive to the basket. We saw even Darius Garland D'ing guys up 30 feet away from the basket and bodying them up. So it was a pleasant surprise that the ballet dancers turned into the big bad bullies in Game number 2 for the Cavaliers.
Well, yeah, it really was. And again, as we mentioned, I think, Kenny, they realized that, look, this is going to have to be necessary, because maybe just what we want to do, Cavaliers is our normal game, and how we want to, execute, run offense, and do it with just execution and finesse. wasn't necessarily going to be the way. So I thought they combined it very, very well. And the game too was, I think it's some of the best basketball. The Cavaliers had a terrific regular season. We've been documenting that here on the R&R podcast throughout the course of the season. But I thought this game too, Kenny, if you combine every facet of it, I thought it was some of the best basketball that the Cavaliers had played all year. And I thought it was some of the best basketball that J.B. Bickerstaff has coached all year. Kenny Roda, it became obvious, and you and I have talked about this, and that's why I guess a lot of people didn't listen to our last show that listen, the people that are asking for Dean Wade and Ricky Rubio and those type of players, no. I mean, you got to get that. You got to get that rotation at no more than 8, and then more preferably 7. And
Right.
if you notice, that's exactly what happened in game 2 when Isaac Okoro has been. They started him in game 2, and that was just an abomination. He didn't play at all, I don't think, after the first quarter, Ken, was it?
No, 3 minutes. That was it. Yeah.
To me, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. You got to have people out there that are making it happen and, getting the job done for you and that you could trust and believe in. I mean, this isn't the preseason where you're looking at, what my rotation may be and who plays best with whom. And pretty much, and Kenny, I do think I intimated this. Look, when the game's on the line, okay? When the game's on the line, going forward, for as long as the Cavaliers are here, you saw it last night, I think, in the entire fourth quarter. You're going to see, the 3 starters. I would, and I'm not sure Okoro is going to be in that now, but you're going to see, you're going to see the 4 starters. I'm sorry, Allen, Mobley, Garland, Mitchell, and Karis LeVert. That's going to be the 5 on the floor for you. And if you're a Cavs fan and you don't see that and don't understand that now, I don't know what else to tell you. You saw it there last night. And that was the group that was on the floor, too, in the second quarter last night, Kenny,
Right.
when the Cavaliers outscored the Knicks 34-17 in that second quarter. They took control of the game and they never looked back. But, this is what it's going to be all about. And you're going to either win or lose this series with I think, no more than 6 guys.
Reg, here's the thing, too, with yesterday's game. We gave love to Darius Garland, who went for 32, right? A bounce-back game after only 17 points and 1 assist in the first game, okay? And he had 5 turnovers, and he was loose with the ball in game 1. So huge reason they won. Game 2 was Darius Garland. Another huge reason they won was Karis LeVert's 24 points, because as bad as Garland was, LeVert was worse in game 1. And Karis showed up yesterday at both ends of the floor, almost as if he was pissed off and knows how bad he played in game 1, and he took it out on the Knicks yesterday. So they need that Karis LeVert to show up. He's got to be more consistent, Reg. It can be one good game, one bad game. And down the stretch, he was very good for 2-3 straight weeks. But earlier in the season, it was either hit or miss with him. And so they need him because he's the only guy I feel comfortable with off the bench to get me double-digit points every night. He has to bring 12 to 15 points every night, in my opinion, if not more, for the Cavs to counter what the Knicks bring off the bench, because Jetty's either hit or miss, hot or cold, Jekyll Hyde, and he's gotten minutes the last 2 games, and that's because everybody else stunk. But Danny Green, hopefully we'll see a little bit more of him because he can make that 3. And while he's not the same as he once was defensively, he still gives you effort out there. So that bench really, Reg, is 1 deep. It's Karis LeVert for sure. And then I think JB's grasping at straws, trying to find that second guy to give him that 7-man rotation.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that's what I think he's let all the starters know that as well.
Yeah.
That, the 4 of them anyway. He's let them know that, look, you're going to be around 40 minutes. And, and Levert's going to be around 40 minutes. And then if, you get Danny Green can hit a couple of shots, and maybe starting Friday night, Green will get another opportunity maybe to stay on the floor a little bit longer. And that's fine too. But again, this is what playoff hoops is about. I mean, if you're expecting to see 9-10 guys,
right,
you're looking at the wrong thing here, and it's not going to happen. And, I thought too, another thing, because Karis LeVert played so well on the offensive end, Kenny, 9-16 from the floor, hit 4 threes. When he was defending Jalen Brunson,
yep,
I believe Brunson went 2 of 11 while LeVert was defending him. And, I think Karis is an unheralded, I'm not saying he's a great defensive player, but, Kenny's almost 6'7". He's rangy, and he busts his butt. Watch him get down in that stance on the defensive end. And when he was on Brunson last night, Brunson didn't do anything. So that might be another thing that you may start seeing a little bit more, because no one else has really had a strong time with trying to keep Brunson under control. But about the same token, now Tom Thibodeau, he's going to respond to what happened last night, and so that maybe that we'll have to take into account too as we see what that may be come Friday night. But a terrific bounce back for the Cavaliers. The second quarter was fantastic. That really put the game in their control. And Kenny, another thing I think, and I brought this up the last time we were together. You and I talked about it a little bit, but I want to ask you, in game one, right? In game one, when the Cavaliers played like crap, Donovan Mitchell took 30 shots.
right.
In game two, Donovan Mitchell took 11 shots and dished off 13 assists. He made sure that Garland, Mobley, Allen, and LeVert all got their touches. And listen, I'm not suggesting you don't, because probably there's going to be a game where Donovan Mitchell's got to take it over in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And I'm all about that. No issue there. But if you're looking at it, this does amplify what we said. He takes 30 shots and the Cavaliers lose. He takes 11 shots and dishes off 13 assists and the Cavaliers win. So now you tell me, what do you want to make of that?
Well, Reg, here's what I'll say. He was just under 50% shooting in game one, 14 of 30, right? So that's not bad. And he was 6 of 16 from 3-point range, 3 of 8. I don't know what the math on that is, but that's not horrendous. And he still had 8 assists in game one. So I wasn't as upset with his 30 shots, because I think he looked at that and said, all right, nobody can score here tonight. This is game one where they're inexperienced, so I have to keep us in this game. And so I didn't have a problem with it. And I loved, though, what he did in game two. And I mentioned this on the air to my partner JT today on WHBC. I think he took a page out of LeBron's playbook and said, all right, I've got to get everybody involved tonight here, get them comfortable, because I can't win this series by myself. I need Darius Garland to score more than 17. I need Evan Mobley, who was terrible the other night, to get his game going. Jared Allen, Karis LeVert. So, I mean, you look at it, he's averaging 10.5 assists through 2 games, 13 in game 2, 8 in game 1. So I think this is what I like about Don. I think he has a good feel for the game on what's needed and when it's needed. And I think yesterday he tried to get everybody involved, and it went so well. He was like, okay, I don't need to put up the shots that I did in game 1. This is working, so I'm going to stay with this. And the thing I loved about it is he didn't care that he only scored the 17 yesterday, right? He accepted that. And that's what I loved about his game yesterday, that he was happy that they won, and he was thrilled that the other guys, 13 for Mobley, 32 for Garland, and 24 for LeVert, he was happy that they scored and maybe gained some confidence, because he knows he can't do it by himself in a 7-game series.
100%. There's no doubt about that. And, I bring that up as a a commendation to Donovan Mitchell.
Yep.
Certainly not a criticism, because as I said, he's going to there's probably going to be one of these games coming up, and it might be an MSG. These next two where Mitchell's going to have to, for the Cavaliers, go on about a 4 to 5 minute stretch where he takes it over and looks to get to the hole and take many of the big shots.
Right.
Understood with that. And I'm all about that too, because he's been terrific all year long. It's just that, as you just pointed out, I think he realized yesterday, all right, I got to get the basketball. I got to get guys touches, and let's see where it goes with it. And getting those touches got those guys that you mentioned on a roll and came up with far superior offensive games to those that they played in game one. And if that's going to be the Cavaliers' recipe for success, then I believe that Donovan Mitchell will find that nice middle ground, Kenny, where, here at times, I'm going to go get mine. And there are times I'm going to get everybody else involved, especially when Thibodeau is running blitzes and traps and doubles at him.
It'll be interesting to see who they go after with those double teams and traps in game 3. Do they go after Garland, who went for 32, or do they still go after Mitchell and say, we know Donovan can score 40 against us? I don't know if Darius Garland can do it 2 games in a row, so We're going to leave him open. That's what I think is going to happen, Reg.
Yeah, well, I'm with if I'm the New York Knicks, and I'm looking at it strictly from their prism here. If I'm them, that's what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm going to put a lot of pressure on Darius Garland and see if he can handle it, right?
Yeah.
Because, as you just said, Donovan Mitchell has seen all of this, been about all of this, and done all of this, whereas for Darius Garland, and especially Kenny, don't forget, this isn't going to be in the friendly confines of Rocket Mortgage. It's going to be at Madison Square Garden, where that crowd is, that crowd at MSG, man. They are all about hoops and all about their Knicks. So going to be a tougher task, and I would imagine that Tom Thibodeau is going to use that in going after Darius Garland.
The crowd, they're going to be lubed up, Reg. It's an 8:30 start. Think about that. The New Yorkers who've been, dying for a playoff game with the team they think has a shot, they're going to be drinking from about noon to 8 o'clock, and then tip-off in the Garden is 8:30. They're going to be yelling things at Mitchell and Garland and Mobley and those guys like they've never heard before from a fan base. I mean, they're going to be talking about you can't score like your mama scores and stuff like that. I mean, it's going to be nasty in the Garden. It really is.
So crowd, they're the best. It's great. I used to love, while I was calling the Cavaliers, going in there, twice a year, and you sit right courtside, right there in mid-court across from the benches. And the stuff that is said and done, and the crowd, it's definitely a factor now. So you got to have thick skin.
Yeah.
Hell, they'd go after us, the announcers, and call us everything that you can imagine. So, it's a tremendous basketball environment, but you got to have a thick skin to be able to withstand it. And Kenny, so far, I don't know. I mean, again, this is I expect each team to win a game in MSG and come back here, and then from this perspective, the hope is that the Cavaliers, then that game 5 is going to be extremely critical, because if that happens, Ken, I think the winner of game 5 is going to be your series winner.
Yeah, I picked it to go 7 when it started, Reg, and I got the Cavs in 7, so we were in agreement on that. So we'll see if that's the case. Hey, we'd like it to go 5 and win the next 3 and be over and done with, but I don't think that's going to happen. So a good bounce back game in game 2. Garland, LeVert were fantastic. Mitchell, superb in spreading the ball around. 27-5 so far. Points per game, 10.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, and 49% from the field, 38 from 3. The one area that concerns me with both Garland and Mitchell and LeVert, between the 3 of them, they're shooting about 71% from the free throw line, Reg. And those are the guys that, can shoot the ball. I would expect that maybe from Mobley and Allen, but I need Mitchell Garland and LeVert to be better from the free throw line because you're going to have to earn it. You ain't getting an easy layup, so you better cash in because those hard fouls are coming, especially after what happened late in that game with Jared Allen and Randall.
Those three got to be at 80%.
Yep.
Or at least the high 70s from the line. Couldn't agree with you more. If they're not, then, you might have an issue, especially on the road. And, I'm also, how is Evan Mobley going to handle this too?
Right.
I hope he got a little bit of confidence last night in what he was able to accomplish. But again, it's going to be a different environment. And, they're going to get physical with Mobley. You know that.
Yep.
Both Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson especially are going to get physical, and even Hartenstein as well. So, but this is who the Knicks are. This is how they play. The Cavaliers know that. They've just experienced it now, and twice in the last 3 days. So, you expect them to rise to the occasion here. No excuses. It's not time for excuses. It's time to go and understand what you have presented to you. And again, they've got to know what's going to be presented to them by the Knicks and what style of play, and they're going to have to respond to it and keep themselves in the game, Ken.
No question about it. All right, Reg, let's do this. Let's get a break in right now. When we come back, let's preview games 3 and 4. Game 3, Friday night, 8:30, MSG. Game 4 will be Sunday at 1 o'clock, both in New York. When we come back, we'll give you our thoughts on both of those games and what the Cavaliers must do to at least get one win in the next 2. That's coming your way when we return to the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tyvis, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome back to the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, powered by MGM Northfield Park, and just around the corner. That's right. The Kentucky Derby is coming up on Saturday, May 6th, and doors will open at 9:30 a.m. at Northfield Park. First post for the Kentucky Derby, 10:30 a.m. They'll have live bands, a food truck festival from 12 to 7 p.m., drink specials, prize drawings, the $2,000 Gulfstream Park handicapping contest, the $1,000 Derby Day hat contest hosted by Seagrams, and more, and advanced wagering on the Kentucky Derby starting on Friday, May 5th, 2023. We're at MGM Northfield Park. I'm fired up, Reg, since gambling's legal now in the Buckeye State. I'm going to be putting some money down, picking some long shots, and doing all kind of fun things with MGM Northfield Park and the BetMGM app. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we've been there doing shows in the past and been a part of that Kentucky Derby Day special, and that's a lot of fun out there at Northfield Park, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's always great to head out to see all the good folks at MGM, and the track is always in a fabulous shape for the run.
Yep.
And I would encourage anyone that hasn't done it to make sure you do. It's a scene you don't want to miss, and even if you have done it, you want to get your gang together and head out again to have a great time on Derby Day.
The one thing I love about it, Reg, at Northfield is if you can't make it to the real Kentucky Derby, they make it as fun as possible.
Yep.
Have the hat contest, the handicapping contest. You can wager on those things and watch. And it is really a good time. So if you've never been, check it out at MGM Northfield Park. All right, Reg, before that comes, though, we've got games 3 and 4, Cavs Knicks in New York, Friday night, 8:30, Sunday at 1 o'clock. And let's start with the Friday night game, Reg. Let's go from the New York perspective. What do you think Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks are going to try and do differently after getting their doors blown off in game number 2?
Well, I think the biggest thing, Kenny, is they're going to go with, let's go back to playing as much bully ball and being as physical as we can, especially, I think, with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. And I think they're going to just absolutely look to be crashing every time a shot goes in the air and play as physical as possible. They'll be willing to get some guys in foul trouble, Kenny, because the New York thing. I got a feeling, we're just talking about it. I think even though maybe down deep they don't believe that the Cavaliers are a finesse team that maybe has some softness to them, I still think that's going to be the approach they're going to see. They're going to test the Cavaliers' manhood, so to speak. So I expect the Knicks to be at their high-flying physical best and playing as much banging around the rim as they can in an attempt to get this series back in their favor.
Good buddy of ours, Mark Kestashir, who does the play-by-play on ESPN Radio now, right? For the NBA, their lead announcer, had him on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC the other day. And Kesty said something, and it really caught my attention. He said, how many times have you heard that the NBA, and especially the playoffs, it's a make or miss league, right? You got to make shots. But he said, not so fast with the New York Knicks. He said the Knicks style of play is more miss and then make by crashing the offensive boards. So they don't care so much if they miss that first shot. It's the second and third shot opportunities that they rely on. And that's proved to be, prophetic and perfectly, said by Kesty, because through 2 games, the Knicks have 30 offensive rebounds, and that's how they won game 1. So for me, if I'm the Cavaliers, I'm harping on that still. Yeah, we won game 2, but we still gave up 13 offensive rebounds. They got 30 in 2 games. And so if I'm the Cavaliers, if I'm JB Bickerstaff and Luke Walton and the rest of that coaching staff, that's what I'm harping on. And if I'm Thibodeau, I'm saying, hey, guys, okay, look what we do best, right? We got 30. We're going to continue to do that. And to your point, we're going to continue to be physical, even more physical on defense and on the boards. And if you pick up fouls, so what? We're a deeper team. I've got more weapons on the bench than they do. I'll go to you other guys be ready in case we pick up those fouls, because we're not going to change the way we play because it's the playoffs. We have to be the more physical team at both ends of the floor.
That'll be the exact approach the New York Knicks used. They somewhat showed that. They wanted to put that out on display when they were on the road for the first 2 games. So
Yep.
in these 2 at home, with that crowd, as we talked about, absolutely wild for their Knicks. That the Cavaliers are going to have to find a way to hang in and Kenny, not let that. I know you'd say, well, it's easier said than done, but I mean, again, this is the NBA and it's the playoffs now. The Cavs are going to have to find a way to not let that crumble them because of game. And you know what? You may not get a whistle. You may think you should be getting whistles because of physicality. It depends. They may not happen, and you just can't let all of that, get you so far behind it that it becomes the series in and of itself that the Knicks' physicality winds up beating you. I hope the Cavaliers can can maintain that mindset and bring that out on the floor starting on Friday night.
Yeah, the guy that worries me the most is Evan Mobley. He has not shot the ball well so far in this series. 42% from the field, 50% from the free throw line. Everything's falling away, Reg. He's shying away from the contact. And I was surprised by that because game one, his very first basket, he drop stepped, spun, and dunked it with his left hand going to the, I'm like, damn, okay. This is a different kid in his first playoff game. And then everything after that, he was 3 for 13 the rest of the night. And it was all falling away. And yesterday before the dunks, everything that he missed, he was falling away, not attacking the rim. So he concerns me from the physicality standpoint because, yes, he was third in the Defensive Player of the Year voting, right? But he's a finesse defensive player. He's similar to a Larry Nance style of defensive player. He needs to be more physical at both ends of the floor, and especially on offense. So the physicality from the Knicks and on the road, that combination concerns me. And how does Garland react when they foul the hell out of him tomorrow and he doesn't get the calls like you said? Does he let that get in his head? Does he bitch to the officials? Or does he just accept it, smile in the face of adversity, laugh at the Knicks, and just come back down the next time and drop a 25-foot three-pointer on him and chuckle on his way back down the floor?
Well, we hope that's the response you get from Darius Garland. But, because, Kenny, look, I mean, you're going to have to get some offensive point production out of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I don't want to put a number on it, but I know this. I'll put a number the other way. If you want, Mitchell, Garland, and LeVert to get you 80, right? Well, look, I think you got problems there. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think there's problems there. You're going to have to get some offensive point production out of Mobley and Allen. And you're absolutely right about what you said about Evan Mobley. And I know the kid's only 21 years of age, and he's going to have a long and hopefully phenomenal career ahead of him. He's got so much skill. He's got so much ability, but you know what? This is probably going to be good for him, Kenny, in that he's going to have to show that it's not just about, what you do finesse-wise and that everybody's going to just let you make the moves you want. Playoff basketball is a little bit different. So, hopefully this will be something that he responds to well in New York. And Kenny, going forward as his career goes on, makes him aware that I'm going to have to develop some pretty thick skin to play down around the rim in the NBA, especially at playoff time.
Yeah, and if I'm, Coach Tibbs, I need to get something from my bench. Quickly's been a non-factor, and he's up for sixth man of the year, right? Josh Hart, nice game one, but was non-factor in game two. And I'm wondering how bad that ankle injury is that he suffered in game one. Yeah, he hit the biggest shot of game one after the ankle injury, but is that affecting him? And, Randall landing hard like he did on that, that dunk. How is that going to affect his movement? So you've got two question marks there as far as injuries for the Knicks, and Isaac Okoro's knee. Do they start him knowing that, okay, we're going to get 10 to 15 minutes out of him, but we need to bring LeVert off the bench, and we want to keep him in that role? Or do they sit Okoro completely and start Lamar Stevens, the only guy that he really hasn't given a shot at that small forward position that played meaningful minutes throughout the year? So those are things that I'll be watching in game three from JB Bickerstaff. Who's in the starting lineup? And, how does he handle that bench rotation again, as well as what does Tibbs do with his bench? And does he go to them more to try and gain an advantage because they're deeper on the bench?
Yeah, no question. I really think his preference, and I think Karis LeVert's preference, is to be the sixth man and lead that second unit and come off the bench. Now, that's fine in principle, but you're going to have to get some better play then from whomever you start at. Again, last night, you can say, well, it really doesn't matter. LeVert's going to play. Last night he played, I think, 40 minutes last night.
Yeah.
Well, okay, fine. a lot of it's going to have to be at the 3. As I said, I do think you're going to get, the 4 mainstays, the 4 starters, and LeVert are going to be the guys on the floor when games are to be decided. But it's a tough question. It's a tough decision for JB Bickerstaff to make. But Kenny, I think they're either going to start Stevens or Okoro. Either way, the minutes will be limited. LeVert will be in, at the 5-minute mark of that first quarter, and hell, may not come off the floor the rest of it. Who knows? He didn't last night. And I think probably that'll be the way they'll go, keeping LeVert as that leader and that spark off the bench to man up whomever plays with him. As I said, though, I don't think the second unit's going to go very deep anymore, Ken. I don't think you're going to see Ricky Rubio again. I don't think you're going to see Dean Wade again. There you have it.
All right, Reg, here's my prediction for games 3 and 4. I learned my lesson in game 1 that lack of playoff experience mattered. Okay. I thought the Cavaliers, with the home court and everything, that they would go out and win the first 2 games. Okay. The Knicks used that to their advantage. It was a factor with Garland, with Mobley, with Okoro, and it's a 1-1 series because they lost game 1. I think playing their first road playoff game might have the same effect on Garland and Mobley and Okoro if he plays, and they're going to have to learn from that. So I'm going Knicks win game 3, Cavaliers then learn what they have to deal with in game 4, and I think it benefits them the short turnaround on a Sunday afternoon game, and they come back and win game 4, and we're 2-2 coming back to Cleveland in a best-of-3 series at that point. That's how I see this weekend playing out. I hope I'm wrong, but I think I'm going with my head saying, okay, this is a first for Garland, for Mobley, and Okoro, and they're going to have to learn what road intensity playoff basketball is.
I believe that's pretty much right on, and I feel the exact same way. So I won't take a lot of time in just parroting everything you just said. But yeah, I think the Knicks will probably get game 3 on Friday night, and then look for the Cavaliers to basically the same thing that's just happened in games 1 and 2. I do think it's coming back 2-2, and the winner of game 5 will probably be the series winner. So I kind of think that that's the way things will roll in Madison Square Garden for the duration of the weekend, Ken.
Reg, the only way I think they win game 3 is if Mitchell goes for about 50. And he's capable of that. He's done it twice in his playoff career. So going back there, right, where his dad works for the New York Mets, he was supposed to be a member of the Knicks, right? Now the stage is the biggest it's been in New York in a long time. So I could see him saying, all right, yeah, the young guns are a little shaky here in their first road playoff game. I need to take over this game. And if he's hot, then I could see them stealing game 3 with Mitchell going for like 53 and a last-second shot to give the Cavaliers a win. And what theater that would be at MSG if that were the case.
Ooh, it would be, and he's very capable. That would kind of bring back some of the memories of Michael Jordan against the Knicks. We're going back now 30 years ago when Jordan in the 90s against the Knicks would go into MSG. And regularly, it seemed, put up 50 and lead the Chicago Bulls to a win. So, yes, I'm with you there, too. We talked about the difference in how Mitchell played games 1 and 2. I think Friday night he's going to go back to the guy. He might take 30, 35 shots in game 3 to see if he can get the Cavaliers into that 2-1 advantage with his just phenomenal offensive play. So, that's, again, I think it's coming back 2-2, but I agree with that on game 3, how it may roll.
I think that's the only way they win game 3. So we'll see how that plays out. All right, real quick, Reg, before we get out of here on this R&R podcast, Mike Brown named the coach of the year tonight in the NBA. JB Bickerstaff finished 4th. Jaren Jackson was named the defensive player of the year. Evan Mobley finished 3rd. So while Cavalier player/coach didn't win the award. Good that they were in consideration for both of those awards. And it was unanimous that Mike Brown won Coach of the Year. I wasn't surprised by that at all. I was surprised by the wide margin that Jaren Jackson won it with. But just your quick thoughts on those two postseason awards.
Big admirer of Mike Brown. As you know, during my years calling the Cavaliers on TV, I got to be with Mike on an everyday basis. And in a difficult situation here in Cleveland, I thought he, as a young coach, handled it very, very well and showed why he had this kind of career ahead of him. So, hearty congratulations to him. And, Kenny, I mean, it's almost like, you could say it's very subjective with the Defensive Player of the Year. Could have Evan Mobley won it? Yeah, sure, of course. Did Jackson win it fairly unanimously?
It wasn't unanimously, as Lopez with Milwaukee finished second, and then Mobley was third, but it was pretty convincingly, and he was the favorite to win it.
Yeah, I know he definitely was the favorite to win it, but to me, I would have probably, as good as he is, and as much as I really am an admirer of Brook Lopez, I would have probably went Evan Mobley number 2, and then Lopez number 3. But again, completely understand it. Very subjective, and I've been through all that before. The years when I had votes, Kenny, and you almost knew, pretty much as you talked to your peers, you almost knew who was going to win, why were they going to win, and how were people going to vote. So these votes of subjectivity really don't surprise me a lot.
And just to get everybody up to date on what's happening tonight, how about this? The Grizzlies without Ja Morant beat the Lakers by 10 to even that series at 1-1. The Bucks are playing tonight without Giannis Antetokounmpo with that lower back contusion. Right now, they're up 26 going into the third quarter, trying to tie that series 1-1. And Denver, Nikolai Jokic is playing tonight. He had a hand injury, but he is playing tonight. They're trying to go up 2-0 on Minnesota. That game just started as we're taping this, Reg. And how about, real quick, the Warriors down 0-2 to Mike Brown, Sacramento Kings, and no Draymond Green in Game 3 as he's been suspended, for stepping on the chest of Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, that I don't know. I thought Golden State was going to win that series, Kenny.
So did I.
A lot of people. Yeah, I don't. I suppose they go back home and get it even at 2-2. They still can. However, having to win 4 of the next 5 against a real good basketball team is never easy. So we'll see how all that plays out. But exciting times as always in the early stages here of the NBA playoffs.
Celtics look really good. The Sixers have been impressive to this point. We're deadlocked 1-1 between the Clippers and the Suns, and that, I think, is going to be a 7-gamer, and Kawhi Leonard looks really good, too. So we've got some fun basketball to enjoy, not just with the Cavaliers in the postseason, but a number of teams have a shot at winning the title this year, Reg.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think as we put out in the last time we were together here, I think there's 4, if not 5 teams that could win a championship this year. So that's why this version of the playoffs, this 22-23 season, should be spectacular for our fans and very exciting going through the month of May and into June too.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Reg, and we'll be breaking it down for everybody, along with the Guardians, who were 10-9 as we tape this baby, and the Browns getting underway with their voluntary workouts in the offseason. We'll have it all covered for you here on the Reghi and Roda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, powered by MGM Northfield Park. And don't forget, Kentucky Derby coming up Saturday, May 6th. Head on out to Northfield Park. Doors open at 9:30 a.m. Watch and wager on the Derby and have a blast out there, and we appreciate them. Brent Reitz and company jumping on board with us for another season of the R&R podcast. And thanks again to Ty Courts, our producer. We appreciate everything that he does for us. And Reg, look forward to doing this again next week, and we'll see where we are after 4 games between the Cavs and the Knicks.
It's going to be a lot of fun, Kev. We'll talk then.